Elysia Bust, your host, and I am having the great pleasure of getting to connect with my dear friend, Carla Bauchmueller. She's located in California, and she's been on before. We had technological difficulties though that day, and so sadly we did not have that amazing interview, but I'm really glad to have her again on Horsepower Empowerment through Connection and streaming live into global equine and equestrian coaching to talk to you about meditation and horseback riding, talk about the importance of being, I feel like, mentally and emotionally fit when we ride horses, right? And really honoring that whole process. And the unmounted work. There's so much wisdom in this woman, y'all. I'm telling you what, so excited to have her here today. She's done Sally Swift centered writing program. She's done the classical German training program. She's got a master's in economics, which is always fun for me to be like, economics and horses. I mean, there's so much that's there. So Carla, thank you again so much for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me, Elysia. It's always so fun to chat with you and with your audience. So it's really a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, you're very welcome. So for people that don't know more about your story, can you just dive in and tell us a little bit more about how you got into horses and what maybe they helped you through in obstacles in life?
Yes. Yeah. That could end up in a long story. I'll keep it short. So, I wondered about this before our interview, right? Where were the turning points? And I started riding as a child when I was 9, but I rode lesson horses, and I always felt sorry for the horses because there were so many things that I did not like about it. The nose bands being really tight, riding with side reins, and and plus I knew we weren't good riders yet, right? We were beginners, so we were banging in their backs and pulling on their mouths, and I felt so guilty half of the time of riding. And though I enjoyed it so much, but it was just constant guilt. And there was one day actually when one of the lesson horses started being really lame. And I knew that these lesson horses just disappeared then, right? And they got retired, but we all knew they weren't getting into any kind of retirement. They were actually going to a slaughterhouse. And it was really heartbreaking. It was one of my favorite horses, and I went into the stall with her and just stayed there with her and was crying, and she was still fairly young, like 14 or 15, right? No age for a horse to go. And so I was like, oh, I wish I could do anything, right? I felt so helpless. I wanted to do something to help that horse. And then after I thought, how can you help them? I thought maybe I can become a vet. But I mean, the vet couldn't do anything about this either, right? So I was like, okay, that's not doing it. And then after a while, I thought, oh, how about teaching people to ride better? Because if they ride better, it's so much better for the horses.
Yeah.
Right? They don't, as we beginners, we were banging in their backs and all of that, not knowing what we were doing. No one really taught us properly how to do it. But if I could teach people how to do this better, it will be so much better for the horses. And so that was basically my starting point when I was 16 or so, right? 15, 16, something like that. And then I became really passionate about understanding what the rider has to bring to the table. How do we have to sit in the saddle, right? How can we make it more comfortable for the horse to move, because we are balanced and we are breathing and we are connected and we know what we're supposed to do with our hands or not do with our hands and all of that. So I became really passionate about that. And yes, there was a period of making my master's degree in economics, a couple of years in between. But then I actually came back to that childhood dream. And then I did the centered riding, which is all about that, all about understanding your body, understanding also your emotional, mental side of being a horse person. And I became a yoga instructor, a meditation instructor. And that's when I actually started becoming interested in people. And now I know that in order to do this work, you have to love people as much as you love horses. Right?
Oh, that can be a tall order sometimes.
See, and this is when we first get into this business for lots of us, right? When we get into this business, we do it because we love the horses.
True.
But if you don't turn around, love the people just as much, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Right.
Very true.
So it
Otherwise
took
you just
me a
get
while.
otherwise you just get super judgy and frustrated, and then it's like your energy, the person, then negatively impacts the horses that you're trying to help, and potentially, yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, really that creating the compassion that you have for the rider, because they are all trying their best. The people I work with women over 40, usually who've got their own horses.
Yeah.
And they are passionate about their horses. They want to do the best they can do. They want to be the best person for their horse, right? And it's really about understanding more and learning more, and then being able to really do it.
Welcome, Tara. I'm happy to have you here. Tara, feel free to ask. Oh, she just popped off, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Technology, probably.
Technology's, it's funny, it happens.
Kicking people out.
But yeah, so we have to I always get so excited when somebody tries to join us. I'm like, oh, more people. They were hearing how we love people, and then suddenly a person.
Exactly, there's a person, hooray. Yeah, it's really, and I'm trained in regression techniques and life coaching techniques, so I've really started working with people a lot as well, and how then we can bring people and the horses back together and make the person a better person, not just for the horses, but really for their life and for themselves. I think that's really super exciting.
That's
right?
a beautiful thing.
I've been doing this for 30 years now, so
which is phenomenal. I feel so blessed to get to have you here on the show and be able to share some of your own story and the incredible wisdom that you have to share.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So for the people out there who don't know what the regression work is, can you briefly touch on that and bring it together?
Yeah, so I've done spiritual work for decades now too. And I got into it by really regression work. And the way I was trained is where you use regression work to take yourself basically into a meditative state where you remember things differently than you would just remember from, just your brain or your usual being. So you can remember things from very early childhood and sometimes even past lives and things like that. So you really drop back into the past. And the idea is to really get data points from the past on why you are the person you are today. Right. So it's not about, really understanding exactly, why you had a bad childhood. Right. No, it's more about, okay, this happened. And now I really understand how this happened. And now I'm here today and I can make different choices today. Because
so kind of like how a person has a blueprint, but then when they adjust them and then now you get to erase part of the blueprint and rewrite it.
Exactly. Totally. Right. And sometimes this blueprint is kind of stamped onto us and we are in this groove because we think this is the person we are. And then we stick to all these limits that may not even be limits. Right. Yeah. And understanding that and going like, okay, if I were like this and it was a useful way of being when I was 5, but now I'm 55. So maybe I can make other choices, right? I'm not in that helplessness anymore that I was in at a 5-year-old. So that's the idea of the regression work. And I actually bring that into the teaching of my riders in that way that I sometimes have them feel back into moments when they were really frustrated in their lives, for instance, right? And usually when I do the group sessions, we're not going into a full-blown regression session, but I have them drop back into the past and remember moments when there was really a lot of anger and frustration, and what happened with that anger and frustration. Did I bottle it up? Were I able to express it? If I did, what happened? So that people get more insight on that. And then the horses become the life coaches, right? Because the horses reflect that back to us all the time, right?
Yeah.
And when we get really frustrated with our horses, well, good sign, right? That there is a deep layer of frustration inside of us somewhere that starts bubbling up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how do the horses usually respond to that type of work?
Yes, it's totally amazing. You know, it's really amazing how when the person changes and shifts, how the horse really shifts and how appreciative they are of this. No, it's really wonderful. So yes, now I'm helping the horses. I ended up helping the horses, right? But by helping people to become a better person for their horse, and this like creating the connection really between the horse and the rider. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's beautiful.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit
I-
more. So like going from there to how, is that, I imagine that's just one of the ways that you help people to connect mentally, emotionally with their horses while they're riding. Because I know you do the mindfulness, you do some yoga. I can't remember, do you do the yoga mounted or just like on the ground in general?
Well, I'm a yoga instructor too, but what I usually do is that I do lots of unmounted work.
Yeah.
Right? Like meaning people sitting on their chairs at home and we meeting in a class, a Zoom class like ours now, right? Like a Zoom class with a couple of people from all over the world, which I find super exciting. And then we do exercises literally sitting on our chairs or walking around in the living room and understanding about breathing, understanding about movement, and understanding about focus, even like mental focus and things like that. So people, you get it into your body, you get it into your system without having to think of your horse then, right? Because when we're in the saddle, we've got 100 things to do at the same time, and you don't even know where to start. But when you take the horse out of the equation for a bit, just go like, okay, what needs to happen inside of me? And then you go back into riding, and then you go like, okay, this is how to position my feet. This is how to open my shoulders. This is how to stay connected, like heart to heart and pelvis to pelvis, then this deep, not just physical connection, but also energetic connection, mental connection, emotional connection.
That's so cool. Do you talk to them about the alignment of the chakras in the horse and the chakras in the human?
Yes, I do not really use the word chakra too much, but yeah, it's basically that, right? It's basically that. One of my favorites is when you really connect the heart center. I call it center, but it's basically the same. Like the heart center to the horse's heart center, right? And how that can happen through the physical as much as the energetic and spiritual and emotional connection, right? So when you think about the connection to the horse's mouth, for instance, right, we've got this really sensitive connection with the horses having this bit in their mouth. And when we are sensitive with this in the connection, then that can create a connection like heart to heart and openness through here. That's not just physical, but also energetic and emotional. So yeah, I love these connections when it's about physical and mental and emotional and how the emotions affect the body and the other way around. I think that's so fascinating.
Oh, that's really cool. Do you find, I think that when I've interacted with quite a few people in conversation, I find that a lot of people are blocked right now because they don't feel like they have much of a voice across the board. And then I wonder if you've noticed that when you interact with people who don't feel that they have a voice, if they struggle to give their horses more of a voice in regards to consent and the work that they're doing and being more mindful in that fashion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yes, my experience too, right? It's really like the throat, that's something that's sometimes not open, heart, belly, right? All these things. And yeah, what I find this is connected with can also be the joy that you're experiencing in your ride. Because what I always ask people to do is when you feel these moments where it's really working, when you really have the connection with your horse, that you actually use a gentle sound to reward your horse and yourself, where you go like, ah, nice. And you always say good boy or something like that all the time. But I like these like sounds that you make, like just an ah. Right? That comes really like from your heart and through your throat. And it's really that wave of joy and opening that really can create a connection with the horses too. And I find that the horses really feel this, right? And they really pick it up, and it's very rewarding for them because they feel like, oh, my person is actually enjoying what we're doing together. So, we're doing this, see, and maybe we can do a little bit more, and maybe how about this and how about that? So the horses get engaged, and I find the voice is always a nice way, like a medium really, to share that with your horse and share your energy and share your feelings with your horse.
That's beautiful. I love that so much. I feel like we should have like some videos that we get to share at some point, that like just little examples that people have an idea of what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll have a little bit better luck here with Tara coming in. So in regards to Tara, you're back. You made it. You can unmute yourself if you'd like. We love to have it just be like very interactive and fun, and be part of the conversation, and no pressure. Where are you in the world today, Tara?
I'm from Virginia.
You're in Virginia? I'm in Virginia too. I'm in Charlottesville. Where are you at?
I'm in like a little south of Richmond.
That's cool.
So I'm probably like 2 hours from Charlottesville.
That's funny. This is just like amazing.
I know.
I love that.
Almost neighbors, right?
Practically neighbors, for sure. Tara, do you have horses?
Yeah, I have one.
You have one? What kind of horse do you have?
She's a 28 gaited Rocky Mountain.
The old girl. That's beautiful. I love the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah,
Rocky Mountain horses. I used to have a Kentucky Mountain saddle horse.
Okay.
This is beautiful. Her name was Gypsy. She's the one that's on so many of my pictures where I'm like nose to nose. And it was amazing, the relationship that we had on the ground. It was funny because under saddle was not so great because I had all these insecurities, which is a beautiful like link into the kind of stuff that Carla's talking about in regards to us engaging with our bodies and our energy, because I had just so much fear. I had her in Oregon, in Southern Oregon, and I bought her, and it was the first time I got up on a horse after being in a wheelchair for 4 months, because I couldn't walk more than 10 feet at a time. And it was beautiful to get to be brave and experience that with her. But on the ground where I had confidence, it was incredible. Like I could point and I could make her like weave around cones, just like following and pointing. It was just like this incredible thing that I really wish we had a bunch of video about. But do you do any groundwork with your horse?
Very little. I mean, a little. I mostly just brush her and hug her.
Which makes sense. And I mean, this is a really great conversation. So Carla, that's a really old horse. Like in part of our conversation today was going to be about unmounted work. So like, let's go into that and talk about some of the considerations that some people might have once our horses get older and they're more retired, and how can we help to engage their bodies and keep their bodies as strong as possible, while also getting to have fun.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I'm focusing on the unmounted work for the person, right? So like really have these things happening on the chair for the person. That's what I mainly do. But I think groundwork for the horses is so important, no matter what you do, right? If you have a young horse, or if you're a dressage rider, Western rider, whatever, or if you have an older horse that you want to keep fit, its groundwork is just really amazing. And yeah, I love what you were sharing, Elysia, with this, like showing like these like liberty work stuff. That's just so much fun, right? And it's also so much about the connection we talked about earlier, this where you feel like you're really one with the horse. And is it in the saddle or is it on the ground, where you feel like you're moving together and you're sharing something and you experience the joy of being together. And Tara, it sounds like you're just enjoying being with your horse. So I love that. And it's even You know, you can even call it a meditation with your horse when you're just around them and you just groom them and you just allow them to invite them into their world, right? Because they are in this quiet, no mind place, right? They are just themselves. They're so much more in being. And when we can allow ourselves to be invited into this, and just hanging out with them does that, right? Just being there, seeing if you can quiet your own mind by really being mindful about the grooming, for instance. And I know when I groom, I don't think of anything else, right? Like, you know, it's this, does the horse enjoy this? And, you know, what about this? And does he really want to connect now? And listening and connecting this way. And yeah, and then of course you can do all kinds of more fancy things in groundwork. Like I love lunging on the cabochon, where you really make sure that the horse carries himself and all this. But yeah, that's a really big topic too.
Oh, that's cool. Have you done the straightness training, Carla?
Say that again.
Straightness training?
Yeah, exactly. I love straightness training. I think that's totally amazing. And I've been working with a lady from Germany who does a really fantastic work around that and created an entire ebook on that. And I've done straightness training work for almost 20 years, I think. And it made such a huge difference for the horses. And in my programs, I also teach some basic stuff around that, because it's just amazing how the horse's musculature changes, how the self-carriage changes, how you can keep them healthy, right? And how you can really keep them balanced, right? What I was shared earlier about this horse that had to be put down, I think that was mainly because that horse never was really ridden in a good balance her
Yeah,
entire
definitely.
life. And then you've got the wear and tear in all the wrong places, and that's then it's in the really early end for the horses, which is so sad.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that as people learn more about the straightness training, it gives them a greater level of awareness of their own bodies and how we're carrying ourselves through space, and how the tightness and potential pain in our bodies then affects our horses as they try to stay balanced.
Yeah.
I think so many horse owners, like, they love their horses, they put all their time and their money into their horses, and they're just like, oh, I don't have any time or money for myself to like go get massage or chiropractic or personal training or whatever. But when you bring balance to yourself, it actually helps to bring balance to your horse.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even I think on the ground, becoming more aware of how we're asking things of our horses and how we have boundaries or not. Like sometimes people have horses that are like all up in your space, knocking you around. You're trying to walk them to the pasture or like to the barn, and they're just like running. They're like all over the place, catting you, running you over, and they're like, "Oh, but here's my friends."
Yeah.
And working with our own like heart-centered confidence instead of frustration, right? And we're getting all mad at the horse instead of taking a breath and coming back into ourselves, and that having that co-regulation that occurs, right?
Yeah, and sometimes you just need a few ideas on what to do with your body too, right? To stay centered, like really positioning your pelvis in a centered position, breathing in a certain way, moving, walking in a certain way. And that applies for in the saddle as much as on the ground, right? When I'm in the saddle, where I'm centered and grounded and I breathe in a certain way, then I have a different connection to the horse. And when I do the same on the ground and all kinds of groundwork, and then it's the same, right? What we do in our bodies, and then emotions and mental state, that all affects our connection to the horses.
Absolutely. Tara, did you have any questions or stories you would like to share about your horse?
Not yet, no.
Okay, no problem. I just always like to check in. We're happy to have you here, and we just like to have fun, like a bunch of friends sitting down having a cup of coffee.
Nice.
So Carla, tell us a little bit more just like about your journey and what you like, anything you have like great stories about the work that you've done and how it's changed people's lives, their horses' lives.
Yeah, there's so many.
Sure.
Actually, maybe I want to share. I wanted to share one story, which was really an aha moment in my teaching, and because we're talking about straightness training, I think it also shows a little bit about the way I work and deal with people. So that was actually 20 years ago, or even longer, I don't know. When I was in my apprenticeship, I did a 2-year full-time apprenticeship at a place in Germany that did more of alternative styles of riding at the time. And I was still there. That must be, at least 25 years ago, whatever. But, so, and I had a group of riders, and these were more like beginner riders, and they were lesson horses from that place, really nice lesson horses, but not super well trained, right? So they did their job, but they were not like, highly trained schoolmasters or so.
Sure.
So I had this group of people, and it was a clinic format. So I had a couple of days. And on the second day, I thought, like, I really want to get these people to feel the straightness of the horse, how to keep their horses in balance. And I thought, oh, it's pretty ambitious, right, with beginner riders and lesson horses. But I had some ideas, and I had played with a couple of concepts before that. And this was a really open group. So I thought, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so I got them on the horses, and I just made them feel into what happens in the horse's body, focusing on the shoulder in front of the saddle, right? So the horse's shoulder, what does the horse do? Just observing. And this is always how I work. So I have people observe, just see what happens. This horse wants to pop the shoulder a little bit more over here. When I travel to the right, he does this. When I travel to the left, he does this. So just observation at first. Then I gave them some tools to fix it. I said, see, and one of my favorite images for this is when you pretend your horse is a train and your reins and your legs are the train tracks.
Okay.
And now you're keeping your horse between your reins and your legs, like on train tracks, so that the horse can turn. And you can control when the shoulder pops a little bit this way, you just gently fortify the train tracks on this side, on that side. So I had them write a circle with a couple of images I gave them, and a couple of cues, and had them play with it. And they actually felt it right from the start. They felt what the shoulder was doing. They were able to put these tools into place. And then what happened, and that was so fascinating to me, because the writers now were in a really good mental focus too, right? And they had a tool, they had something to feel into. So they had the physical thing, they had the tools, they had the mental focus. And what happened, which was kind of unexpected to me, was that these lesson horses started rounding their backs, and they started being in an on the bit position without us even talking about bit or anything. And they really started to carry themselves and be really happy and confident on these circles that we wrote. I was like, wow, that's something, right? We got the horses into this balance, right? I got the riders into feeling it. And through their feeling it and working on the horses started carrying themselves so beautifully. And that was one of the really big aha moments in my life as a trainer, an instructor, because it's a couple of things. It's this, yes, you can feel these things without 20 years of experience.
Yeah.
Right? You can, when you get the correct instructions, it doesn't mean that you have to spend 30 years in the saddle to get it. When you get the right instructions, you can start feeling these more advanced things. And when you feel it, and when you really manage to do these things in the saddle as a rider, then the horse moves better, right? And because we so often focus just on the horse, and the horse has to be trained, and the horse has to be corrected, etc. But oftentimes it's not so much about the horses. These lesson horses, they really just had basic training. But with the riders doing the right thing, they were able to move really beautifully. So yeah, I think that shows, also the way I teach, right? So observation first, then using the tools, and then like fine tuning, feeling into it, making it a new habit, right? Getting your body on board, getting your system on board so that it becomes repeatable.
Yeah, and having the patience and grace and forgiveness of self that you weren't always perfect.
Yes.
Being kind to yourself in the process, because it takes time to build a habit life. Just remembering that sometimes, like, even if we quote unquote fail, as long as we keep going and trying, that like you're not actually failing, you're just learning a different way to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, and see, this is also something that sometimes really breaks my heart when I see how much self-doubt some riders have, and especially women have in them when they're riding, and they feel guilty. And I've been there, like as a child, right? As I said earlier, I felt guilty about riding half of the time, right? So it's the guilt. Am I doing the right thing? And then, I did not do it right, and beating ourselves up for it. And it's sad because it sucks the joy out of the riding, and not just for the rider, but also for the horse.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, like really being compassionate, as you were saying, like compassionate with yourself and saying, I'm doing my best. And as long as I'm working on myself, that's life, right? We are improving, and I can always make sure I'm not harming my horse too much, but the horse is also ready to be there for us. They are just ready to do that.
Yeah. So I have a vulnerable question for you. So there are, as we expand our range and we learn new things, sometimes when we go and we ride a friend's horse, or we go to a horseback riding facility where we're getting riding lessons, there's trainers, and they give you a horse that doesn't want to work, or you feel like it's off, like the horse is stoic, it's safe. Hopefully, like that might be the day that it blows up, but it's safe for everybody else, but it's kind of shut down right now. So you're like, is today the day that it's not going to be okay anymore? And it's going to be like, I'm done with all of you. Because I went and I took a riding lesson, and I was just like, this horse does not want to work today. And like, I've paid for this session, like I'm there, it's the other person's time, and they're being paid by somebody else. And I really struggled. Like I probably spent half my lesson doing groundwork and doing some massage, since I'm trained to do massage on horses, to try and get this horse to a better spot. But I'm also there trying to like make myself a better rider too. And it was just so incredibly awkward for me. And I'm just like, what do I do? So I would love to hear your perspective on that situation.
Yeah, I know that's that. Yeah, I've definitely been there too, right? It's these moments where you feel something isn't quite right, right? You go like, what do I do, right? Kind of stuck in that situation. And, I always find that oftentimes the horses really don't want to work for a couple of reasons. Sometimes because they're just not comfortable in their bodies, right?
Right.
That can be actual pain, or can just be like being stuck, or, something pinches, or they have not gotten the encouragement and motivation, especially when they are lesson horses. It's repetitive and boring and all of this. So I can't blame them, right? That they don't want to do that.
Yeah, they're like a bunch of unbalanced riders. Like, I don't want another unbalanced rider that's going to make me get tighter. And
Yes. And so, I mean, once you're stuck in that situation, I would probably have done the same as you did, like do groundwork, do massage, because I just feel bad for the horses, and then cut the riding portion really short, because for me, I really don't feel comfortable on horses anymore that are not happy. Right. And yes, sometimes you can make them happy by teaching them better balance and getting them encouraged. And, sometimes there are lots of tools that you can use to get them to be motivated again and have fun. I've trained lots of horses that came to me and they were I'm not doing this anymore. But yeah, when you have time to develop a relationship with them and you can make them happy again, that's one thing. But when you're just going to a lesson to learn something, and then you find this horse isn't happy, and you cannot change that within that one lesson that you booked, right?
Yeah, that you're paying for. You're just like, hey, so I'm paying you this money, so I'm going to spend this time to make your horse better a little bit. when I'm trying to get a service.
Yeah,
Like, you
and
should have
I
been
think I
paying
would.
me to like help your horse.
Yeah, I know. I would probably, for me, it would have probably been this one time, and I would probably not go back.
I definitely
Right?
didn't. They just like
Yeah.
they said that I overpaid, and I was just like, they're like, yeah, do you want to credit that towards your next lesson? And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you can keep the extra $10 or whatever it was. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
don't. And it's interesting too, like in small towns, and like I don't know if you experience stuff like this, Sarah, like where you're at. It's like that everybody knows everybody else.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's with these things, it's also when you go to a new place and you ride the horses over there, there is always a moment where you just have to get to know the place, the instructor, the horse, and just also make sure if it's a fit for you. Right.
yeah,
And then in this case, it obviously wasn't a fit because you weren't, you weren't really feeling good about riding that horse. And but it's also, yes, and it's sometimes money that we spend on things where you go like, okay, that was probably not giving me what I paid for. But on the other hand, when you just see it as like trying it out, right? You're trying a new situation out, and it could have been great. Right, could have
yeah,
said like, oh, this is awesome, and I'm coming back next week, right? But then it's also really this trying this out. And this is also for horse owners, people who own horses and they work with trainers or instructors. I always say, give it some time, like try it out. And maybe in this case, when you've got your own horse, maybe not just once, but a few times, so that you see if you are in the same, if you're using the same language
right.
as the instructor, if you are understanding what they're saying, right? If you feel your goal is their goal, right? And things like that you have to check in with your trainer. And also then when you decide to stay with one trainer or instructor, also check in with them from time to time. Like I've got one client right now, and when people work with me in my groups, they oftentimes still have their trainers or instructors at home, because with me, they are learning the foundations of things. What do I really need to do? How do I need to use my body? So I'm in a way translating for them what their instructor sometimes says, right? If their instructor says, shoulders back, right? Then I can say, see, this is what your instructor means when they say shoulders back. They mean you need, let's do this exercise on this and do. So I'm translating for them. But this lady then called me and said, I don't know what to do. I'm working with my instructor, and she sees the potential in my horse. She wants the horse to be a 3rd or 4th level dressage horse, but I'm not there. Right. And I don't feel happy pushing my horse and like bringing the rein short and keeping her together all the time. And my instructor then says, well, you're just riding on training level. But she says, that's where I'm happy right now. Right. I am not, my goals. And that was like an example for the goals of the instructor, of the trainer, not being the goal of the horse owner. Right. The instructor thought, this horse has a lot of potential, so we have to keep going and go to shows, etc. And the owner said, I want to have fun, right? I don't care. Yes, I maybe want to do some more challenging movements at one stage, but only when we're both ready. And, this is also a way you sometimes have to check in with your instructor and sit down and talk, right? Because the instructor is well-meaning, or the trainer says, no, we've got this potential, so let's move. And then you can say, see, yes, it's fantastic that you are thinking this way and that you can ride on this level, but let's come back to what I really want to do with my horse.
Absolutely. And I'm smiling because it makes me laugh, because it reminds me a lot of sometimes when people are dating, because they meet their partner and they're just like, oh my gosh, I see all this potential in this person, and that person's like, but I'm really happy with who I am, and like the now, and like taking things at my own pace, and like I'm really glad that you see that potential in me, but don't push me because I don't really feel like being pushed right now. And it's like, if you want to hang out and you want to be with me, then like honor where I'm at right now and what I want and what I'm ready to offer in this moment. And so like, be it dating or the relationship with your trainer and being with people, it's always about really doing our best to honor the now, the present, the person that's right in front of you, or the horse for that matter.
Yeah, I love that. And listening, right? Listening what the other person really wants, right?
Right.
What is their standpoint, right? And where are they coming from? And that's sometimes very different to what we think about what they should be doing, right?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like anytime that we put ego or expectations in front of us, like on other people, on our horses, like that's when we run into trouble, right? That's when we can get disappointed, because when we're out and we're putting those things in front of us, we're not really there and connected, right? And just
Yeah.
enjoying all the little pieces of the now, all the flavors.
Yeah, and really understanding where the other person is, as you're saying, is coming from. And that's, where we come back to regression work. When you do a lot of
Right.
regression work and you start understanding your own triggers and reactions, then you can also see where other people are just reacting or being triggered, and how that again creates a trigger and reaction inside of you. And they can go like, okay, this is where this person is coming from. This is what it affects inside of me, and why I am responding this way. And maybe I have to take a step back, just leave them, let them be who they are, right?
Yeah.
Just as you're saying. Yeah.
Like I like to be like, own my stuff, own those, like those people can own their stuff, and we can just have healthy boundaries and personal accountability and grace and just go from there.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, we're coming close on time. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience that is just like something you feel really passionate about?
Yeah, maybe let me just talk a little bit about meditation, because I'm definitely passionate about meditation. and I get so often I get asked, why should I meditate, right? What's a good thing about meditation? And what I find, especially as horse riders, what meditation does, it just really quiets your mind, right? But that also means that you do not have this blah, 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 blah in your head all the freaking time, right? As we have all these repetitive thoughts throughout the day, we think about the shopping list, and we think about the discussion that we had with our neighbor yesterday. And, there are all these things, these repetitive thoughts that we're not even aware of. And even if you appear quiet on the outside, when you're around your horse and your head it's still spinning inside of your head, all these thoughts are in there. It's like the horses pick up on that. They pick up on that type of energy, and understanding how to quiet the mind more and be more present and be more in the here and now, and really be with them. That just makes such a big difference. And so, yeah, I encourage everybody to learn some basic meditation techniques to get yourself to quiet down, and don't expect yourself to sit down, close your eyes, and your mind is still. It's not going to happen. Right? So you need some techniques, you need patience. I know lots of people said, oh, I tried meditating. I did it for 2 weeks and it never really worked because I never was able to quiet my mind. And it's like, yeah, let's talk in 20 years, right? And see if you've stuck to a meditation practice, daily practice for a while, then you can say if it's working or not, right?
Yeah, no, I hear good things about meditation. I can't say that I'm good about doing it very often.
Yeah, it's just, it can just be a short one, right? It's kind of just be like 5 minutes in the morning or so, just to really get yourself into position for the day. I just, I love meditation, and love to teach people simple exercise, and, like exercises where you can just do it with your horse.
Yeah.
Right, where you just stand next to your horse, like Kara, when you're talking about your older horse, just being next to your horse and just feeling that heart-to-heart connection, and having them invite you into the quiet place where they are, and this kind of listening and feeling each other, that can really be like a meditation too.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared today, Carla. I so appreciate your candor and your wisdom and your support and everything.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're very welcome. Well, Tara, do you have any questions before we wrap up? Are you good?
I was going to ask what the most rewarding part is for you. Carla?
In my work, you mean, when I work with, I think the most rewarding part is when I can get people to really feel the joy again with their horses. Because I oftentimes see that people get into that perfectionist, oh, I have to do it right thing. And when I can feel them letting go of that, really feeling the moments where it's actually happening and how happy that makes the person and how that resonates with the horse and the connection they have through the joy. These are my most rewarding moments, when I have the riders with these big smiles on their faces and the horses really being there too, and they go like, yeah, we are doing something together. It's the joyfulness. That's definitely the most rewarding times of my work.
That's cool. Thank you so much. And Tara, thank you again so much for being here with us today. I really appreciate you popping in and asking your question, and it's great to have you here. So the closing question always is, who in the world inspires you today?
Who still inspires me today is my spiritual teacher, and he passed away 5 years ago, but still he was really dedicated to his teaching and his students, and he was just passionate about what he was doing. And this passion, like really giving yourself to a cause, right? He felt like he had a mission, and he had his students, and this dedication, this was really inspiring. And then, like really the output, the couple of, he wrote whatever, how many books and things, right? They're just the constant motivation to keep giving and giving and giving, right? His name was Samuel Sagan. So he's that really still really big inspiration to me.
That's beautiful. What was one of the books that he wrote, in case anybody wants to check it out?
Awakening the Third Eye is one of his books, and it's all about third eye meditation that I also teach. So I'm trained in his system, so I'm teaching the meditation and the regression I talked about. That's also based on what he teaches, or he used to teach, and is still being taught in the school that he founded.
That's very cool. So how can people find you, Carla?
Yeah, so best way to find me is on my website. It's theintuitiverider.com. And so the Intuitive Rider, that's the business name, right? Because I want to get people to use their intuition when they are around their horses, when they're riding. And what's a really fun way to get in touch with me is I have a little quiz on my website. It's a 2-minute quiz. It's just really fun and inspiring. It's called, where are you at on your journey as a horse rider? Right? So you can kind of check in, okay, where am I? And it's different than what you might think. It's not about if you can ride flying changes. It's more really, again, right, the emotional, the mental side. And so it's a fun little quiz. And when you take that quiz, you will get a free training from me, a free video training with a couple of exercises that you can actually do, where a couple of things that we talked about today, how to get yourself more centered, how to get yourself into a gentle focus, etc., where you get some of these ideas and inspirations in really doable videos. So you won't have to watch half-hour videos. It's like 2-minute videos or 3-minute videos, really digestible, which can make a huge difference in your riding.
Oh, that's fantastic. There's just so much there. There's so many things. I'm just like, I'm gonna train with you all the time. So everybody out there, I hope you've really enjoyed today's interview with Carla. And if you're interested in being on one of my shows, please find me at www.globalequineaffiliates.com. Or if you'd like to do any empowerment coaching with me, with or without horses. So live or out in the world virtually. So I am just really excited for everything we get to do. And thank you so much again to Carla and Tara. I hope you ladies hang on with me for a second after we click off. And everybody else, we will see you later.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.